Deleted session, March 18, 1981. Good evening. Now, we have been having a rather concentrated group of sessions, and it is quite natural that Ruber should want to take some time out, as he has, so that he can assimilate the material. He is having this evening's session, at least partially out of his sense of responsibility, because he thinks he should, and because he thinks you think he should. He must or should feel free to have the sessions to have the sessions. He has used the materials of your culture, the television programs and so forth, to excellent advantage in the dream state and otherwise, so that messages of his own psyche come through. The TV programs become like dreams, and indeed, they appear rewritten in the dream state also, as the psyche seizes upon different kinds of vehicles for its own therapeutic expression. The Mafia Dream, noted of March 16, said, based on the Gangsters series, for example, served to bring into conscious awareness not just the information, but Ruber's feelings about the dominant male role in your present culture. It is the feelings that are so important. They should not be shunted aside or treated as stepchildren, but compassionately understood. Then they can change into something else. The same applies to Ruber's feelings in the religious area. There is no need saying, "What a ridiculous way to feel." Not an attempt to disinherit the feelings, but to accept them as one's own, and compassionately explain the mitigating circumstances and new knowledge that alter the initial circumstances that stimulated the feelings to begin with. Our late sessions helped bring about several important dreams that I have mentioned, and also activated other therapeutic layers, so that different kinds of messages have been received while Ruber was in the sleep or dream state. To that extent, he has carried on the sessions, using them to good purpose. The natural person is, of course, the natural dreamer, and it is for that reason all the more unfortunate that psychology managed to divorce the world of dreaming from natural healthy psychology. In the natural person, dreams always serve a balancing function, leading towards self-illumination, self-instruction, self-help. That process has been strengthened as far as Ruber is concerned once again. The Stonehenge point, in a way, is a case in point, since it shows the reawakening of a certain kind of creative and psychic activity. So does the bodily relaxation, however, and that steady reduction of tension is bound to show good results as he learns to tread himself further. He is beginning to identify better with his body, a very important point. I want to give you all the pertinent information you require. I also want to see, however, that Ruber's own rhythms are followed, so that you do not get an over-concentration of renewed worries or concerns. We are embarked upon a journey of expression. Some of that expression will necessarily involve feelings that have been inhibited, of a straightforward nature. The problem is not with the feelings, but with the fact that they have not precisely been expressed or accepted. There are other repressed inspirations and creative insights that will also come to the forefront. Unfortunately, it is amazingly difficult to verbally describe the connections between the dream state, health, cultural stimuli, and the way all of these are put together in the interrelationship of body and mind. But Ruber's notes on his dreams and other experiences, being specific, can offer some excellent clues. Your own interest in noted flower, they said seeds, right now presents you with an excellent example of the natural person's inclination to seek out fresh stimulation and to ally itself, however, innocently with those forces of natural creativity. The exterior interest, the physical manipulations, also stand for and reflect inner manipulations with psychic growth and serve as symbols of a united psychological approach. There are other dream episodes that Ruber has forgotten and help that he has received. That does not need to become conscious. All that is primarily needed is trust in those healing processes, and particularly in the body's relaxation. Natural therapeutics always operate, of course, but in your society, at least there is considerable pressure put on the other side, for it is the natural person you are taught not to trust. The switch, of course, again, can never become total, but science, and medical science in particular, almost managed to divorce man from his natural feeling of trust in his own capacities, so that it seems, for example, that medical science per se knows more about any given individual's body than the individual does himself. This is because of the projection of the entire idea of body mechanisms per se, as opposed to inner spontaneous bodily workings. Few people then have little experience with those interrelationships that connect dreams, daily events, and physical health. I recommend again that Ruber not forget to look into the library, to do some energy research on himself, and in whatever way possible try to encourage an atmosphere in which he is less careful. I also want to stress the fact that the entire psychic area of expression belongs to the natural person. It is not some esoteric addition. Man, for example, exhibited natural psychic activity long before the birth of science, and for that matter before the initiation of formal religion. There is therefore a great connection between creativity, poetry in particular, dreams, and psychic exploration. If anything, these provide humanity with a great rich structure of psychological activity, from which all of the later cultural, religious, or scientific elements emerge. So remind Ruber that his psychic activity represents a most basic portion of his nature and of human nature. The entire dynamics of civilization to a large extent is related directly to man's individual and man's psychic experience. And he ever receives fresh information from those inner sources. Otherwise, his physical dilemmas, individually and worldwide, would have ended in sure catastrophe centuries ago. Our material was precisely the kind that would directly threaten old beliefs, so in that regard, there were bound to be points of conflict. Ruber would meet them fairly directly, since after all he was not some hypothetical person reading our books, but the person responsible for delivering them. In a fashion, the material returns him, however, to a natural yet mystical inner knowledge of his childhood before he clothed it in the church's robes, and it would be good for him to remember that, and perhaps try to recapture some of those very early feelings that he has consciously forgotten. In other words, the psychic development is a part of his natural growth, a reaffirmation and restructuring of inner information that in one fashion or another was always available to him, but needed to find a conscious format, a conscious expression, a way to pierce the seemingly opaque habits, knowledge of the cultural world. Such reassurances and reminders can help connect him with feelings from the earlier time. The early vivid feeling for reincarnation, when he knew Roberts was not his proper name. The episode when he watched grade school children as no more than a toddler himself, and knew he had gone to school before. The flying out of body dreams, and the sense of identification with nature, and particularly with the night, those feelings waited for their vindication, for they did not fit into the world as he was told then, period. In other words, the entire psychic sequence only seemed to be thrust upon him in his 30s. A reconciliation now can help revive those youthful feelings of support, however, and the enjoyment of natural knowledge and natural characteristics. I am trying to connect present and past here in a very important manner, so that Rupert can understand his own psychic roots, for they are indeed the basic ones, and that understanding is as important to his development now as any other material that I might give. I will then end the session, unless you have a question that you particularly want answered this evening. Rob said no. They said, then I bid you a fond good evening. Rob said the same to you. Good night.